I didn't see. Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parikacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parikacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the Supremest Human Being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this third day of October 2022 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are now in the 6th canto, Prescribed Duties for Mankind, Chapter 1, The History of the Life of Ajamila. Text number 26. Bunjanaha Prapiban Khadan Balakam Sneha Yantritaha Bodhayan Payayan Mudho Navedagatam Antakam Bunjana Prapiban Khadan Balakam Snehayan Tritaha Bodhayan Payayan Mudho Navedagatam Antakam Bunjanah Prapiban Khadan Balakam Snehayan Tritaha Bodhayan Payayan Mudho Navedagatamantakam Bunjanak Prapiban Khadan Balakam Snehayan Tritaha Bodhayan Payayan Mudho Navedagatamantakam Bunjanak Prapiban Khadan Balakam Snehayan Tritaha Bodhayan Payayan Mudho Navedagatamantakam. Mahanandi, you want to try? Bunjanak Prapiban Khadan Balakam Snehayan Tritaha Bodhayan Payayan Mudho Navedagatamantakam. Kundacharan. Bunjanak Prapiban Khadan Balakam Snehayan Tritaha Bodhayan Payayan Mudho Navedagatamantakam. Bunjanak Prapiban Khadan Balakam Snehayan Tritaha Bodhayan Payayan Mudho Navedagatamantakam. Go Vardhana, Prabhu. Bunjanak Prapiban Khadan Balakam Snehayan Tritaha Bodhayan Payayan Mudho Navedagatamantakam. Anyone else? Okay. Bunjanaha, while eating. Prapiban, while drinking. Khadan, while chewing. Balakam, unto the child. Snehayantritaha, being attached by affection. Bodhayan, feeding. Payayan, giving something to drink. Mudaha, the foolish man. Na, not. Veda, understood. Agatam, had arrived. Antakam, death. Translation. When Ajamila chewed food and ate it, he called the child to chew and eat. And when he drank, he called the child to drink also. Always engaged in taking care of the child and calling his name, Narayana, Ajamila could not understand that his own time was now exhausted and that death was upon him. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is kind to the conditioned soul. Although this man completely forgot Narayan, he was calling his child, saying, Narayan, please come eat this food. Narayan, please come drink this milk. Somehow or other, therefore, he was attached to the name Narayan. This is called Agyata Sukriti. Although calling for his son, he was unknowingly chanting the name of Narayan. And the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so transcendently powerful that his chanting was being counted and recorded. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So one thing that's coming up in the last few days, yesterday, who was it who gave class? Maharaj gave class yesterday? Okay. Yeah, right, of course. And someone was telling a story about how someone fell into a little chandan and was relieved of like unimaginable sins. How many pregnant women did he kill? 10? 100? It's inconceivable. And so, what is that? I mean, you would think, is God fair or not? You know, I mean, it's one thing to think that he's unfair and for a little, infraction, you punish you for eternal damnation. That's the other side. But isn't it just as amazing and head-scratching to think that for falling in the chandan unconsciously, you know, or even chanting his name unconsciously here, so many sins are relieved. So what's going on there? So what seems to be happening is that Krishna, he wants us to come back. He makes all kinds of arrangements to try to give us a chance. Just like the present age. You know, you read about all the austerities, just in this chapter we're reading. How tapasa, brahmacharyena, yamena chedamena da, all the things that are necessary to practice karma kanda and ordinary atonement. Right? There are all these lists and prescriptions in different shastras. Okay, well that sounds reasonable. But then you learn, well, that's not really that effective because it doesn't really uproot the desire, the deep-rooted desire to perform sinful activities. And when the circumstances are just right and you're a little inattentive, boom, you're falling down again, just like an addict. You know, if he hangs out with his old friends or he walks past a bar and he smells some liquor, he says, it won't hurt to just go in there and sit with the prabhus, you know, or the, you know, buddies. There might be some prabhus in there too. And before you know it, he's drunk and be taken out, you know. So, but on the other side, here you have the Lord ready to forgive for practically no service and give you a chance to practice devotional service. And we're seeing that here. This Ajamila, you know, he'd fallen his whole life, you know, decades of grievous sin. He was attached to the prostitute. He's completely covered all of his early days, Brahminical culture, and some Bhakti apparently. He's Narayan. And yet, this one qualification of being attached to his son and having the presence of mind to name him a Narayan, probably, from his early days, he said, well, I like that name, But he didn't really have many assets in devotional service other than just that indifferent agyata sukriti. Agyata means unknowingly practice. And yet that was enough. That was enough to save him when he called out that name at the time of death. That was the key element. And he was completely eradicated. He was free of sin. And the Vishnudutas came and stopped those horrific Yamadutas from ripping him out. And he got his second chance, and he eventually went back to Godhead. So I was thinking that as Baneshri, she gave a wonderful class. I wasn't here personally, but I saw it online, and how Krishna really, really wants us to come back. His love for us never stops, and we're like the wayward, the prodigal son who leaves home and forgets about his parents and gets into all kinds of trouble. But the parents are always wondering, maybe there's a chance he'll call or write or text or something, or they'll show up at the door, and we'll welcome him in with open arms, and this time we'll make sure that we, protect him and whatever. So that the parents are irrevocably attached to the child. Not so the child to the parents. He's ready to forget them, So we're like that. And Krishna is making all of these conditions. If you're chanting, first of all, he puts his energy. This is a very important verse. Nam namacharya bahudana sarva shaktis tatrapidani yamitak smaranena kala. That Krishna has invested his name, that sound, with all of his shaktis, and there's no hard and fast rule for remembering them, chanting them. Here we see it's effective. Even though it's not pure, he's not really thinking of Narayana all the time, he's thinking of his son. But the sound itself is so pure that because he cultivated all his life that attachment to his son who was named Narayana, he called out to him, and therefore, because it was at the time of death, it protected him, and there was a saving grace, so to speak. So I couldn't help thinking as I was reading this verse and preparing for the class, how this kind of default affection that parents have for children, it's almost like a built-in thing. The scientists would say, well, it's necessary, for the child to be protected. It's there in the animals, as Prabhupada pointed out. The lions will love their cubs, and the cats will love the kittens, and like that, Because otherwise, there's no chance of them surviving. They have to. That love has to be there, and oftentimes it's complete. It's a central part of Maya. It's illusory attachment to the body. Which just keeps you're going around in the cycle of birth and death. But when that same affection is cultivated for Krishna, then it opens the doors to liberation. And I couldn't help thinking that here we are entering into the month of Kartik, and Damodar Leela about to be, we're going to start singing that soon as the month of Kartik begins every day. And how, Krishna, he covers completely his opulences, in the little baby Leela in Gokula, then they moved, to Vrindavan. And he absolutely charms and enchants the hearts of especially the elder mothers, all of the elder gopis. And the father too, of Nanda Maharaj, everybody loves him, And he's completely hiding all of his glory, And so I'd like to just... So now, how is that an advantage for us? We're not like Ajamila, hopefully. We're not completing solid sin and just have a bunch of. But we're making an effort to control, to four regular principles. And the main thing is we want to become attracted to Krishna, really attracted, just like this Ajamila, or more precisely like the elders in Vrindavan. So I wanted to just read a few of the pastimes. There's a chapter in the 10th canto called Krishna's Childhood Pastimes. It's also like that in the Krishna book, of course. And I'm just going to read a few of these verses, and you can see how the same kind of charm that a little baby has just completely enthralled these elder gopis, and it was the highest pinnacle of perfection of human life. To have this absolute love and affection for Krishna, who's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but has completely hidden all his glories. So here it is. Now this comes in, the first part is that he'd been tied up. This is chapter 11 already, and the Damodar Leela is chapter 9, and then chapter 10 is where he drags down the Yamalarjan trees, and there's that whole of that. And then he's released by his father, and brought back to the village there. And then it describes how Nanda Maharaj had intense paternal affection. So now Nanda Maharaj has just come at the beginning of 11, and he's releasing Krishna. Now, in the Gopal Champu, there's a whole other part of the pastime where Nanda Maharaj, who did this to you? Because there's this great danger tying him up like this. He didn't know anything about the whole punishment and what happened earlier. And so Krishna says, oh, Mother did. So, Mother Yashoda's, she's completely banging her head against, well, what have I done? What have I done? I put my child in danger. That's all she remembers. She's at home. She doesn't want to come out, And so Nanda Maharaj, he's upset with her also. He doesn't say anything at that point. But Krishna picks up on that. And so when they get home, Nanda Maharaj says, well, do you want to go see your mother? He says, no, I don't want to see my mother anymore, Oh, you're not going to drink any breast milk anymore? No, I'll just drink the cow milk, And who are you going to play with? I'll play with you, Father. And he hangs on to his... So Nanda Maharaj said, this is dangerous, because of my being angry with her. Now he's picked up on that. So what is his strategy? You maybe remember. He said, okay, I'm going to take a stick, I'm going to beat her. And then Krishna says, oh, no. And so he runs to his mother then. And he embraces her, So it's very sweet. So so much of this is the acharyas. They get into the essence of the Leela and they expand it. In the CC, it's called like taking some cotton and then fluffing it out, so you get more, more. So I'm just going to read here. After Nanda Maharaj releases him, then there's a kind of a break, and then it just says the gopis would say. Now this is Krishna's childhood passage. If you dance, my dear Krishna, then I shall give you half a sweetmeat. By saying these words, or by clapping their hands, all the gopis encourage Krishna in different ways. At such times, although he was the supremely powerful personality of Godhead, the Bhagavatam, he would smile and dance according to their desire, as if he were a wooden doll in their hands. Sometimes he would sing very loudly at their bidding. In this way, Krishna came completely under the control of the gopis. Now, I referenced a verse that Narayana speaks to Durvasa Muni. Remember when he had this altercation with Ambarish Maharaj? And he tried to, it was insane. He's going to annihilate him, he's going to burn him to ashes because he didn't respect him enough. It's this Durvasa. You know what Durvasa means? You remember, I discovered what Durvasa means? Yeah, not hard to live with. Impossible to live with. I thought it meant his clothes are far away, because I don't really know Sanskrit. Durvasa means he doesn't have any clothes, he's walking there. No, but it means impossible. And here's why. You can imagine living with someone who the slightest offense would cause him to become murderously angry, No, thank you. Anyway, so Durvasa, as you know the story, he was threatened by the chakra after his kritya. I researched this. This is a female fiery demon that he created by hitting his, he had these powers. He had his hair on the ground, and boom, suddenly there's this kritya coming at Ambarish. And what does Ambarish do? He just keeps chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. He said, well, if this is what Krishna wants, then I'll burn to ashes, but I'll just... Tremendous strength, tolerance and dhira. So he had before been given the chakra as some protection by Narayana. So the chakra comes immediately, annihilates the Christian, and goes after Durvasa. And what's Durvasa's reaction? Oh, this is good. I'll be killed by the chakra. I'll go back to Godhead and go to liberation. No, he was completely terrified. He runs all the way to Vaikuntha. He goes to Shiva, goes to Brahma, says, what can we do? Even the chakra, this is Krishna, So all the way to Vaikuntha. I think it's the Vaikuntha planet, and it's Dhruva Loka. And there he sees Narayan. He says, please, relieve your chakra. And then, I forget the exact Sanskrit, but he says, I can't do anything. I'm completely under control of my devotees. And it's like this, because of the intense love, Krishna agrees to be controlled. Just like the last line, some of you know this verse, Gane priyasam udapasyana eva. It's an important one to know. This is the prayer from Brahma that was the first instruction or answer that Ramananda Roy gave, that Lord Chaitanya accepted. In the talks between Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya, chapter 8 of Madhya Lila, very advanced. But Lord Chaitanya insists on taking the role of the student, the disciple, and Ramananda Roy is the guru. Ramananda Roy was reluctant. He said, how can I do this? This is, Lord Chaitanya, and I'm just he wasn't even a Brahmin. He was like a Kayasta, like Suja. But he was super advanced. So Lord Chaitanya said, Kiba Vipra Kimanasa Shudra Kene Noy Ye Krishna Tattva Se Guru Hoy, the famous verse. Whether he's a Brahmin, a sannyasi, or why not even a Shudra? If anyone who knows the science of Krishna consciousness can be a guru, knows it in truth. And so Ramananda Roy was like that, so he surrendered to it and he started answering the question. He gave all these answers starting, what's the ultimate goal of life and how to achieve it? Varnashram. And he quoted a verse from Vishnu Puran. I said, well, that's external, go on. And he kept going up, 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 up. Even Sarva Dharma Padityaja turned out to be external. I'm not going to get into that. But finally, he quoted a verse from Brahma's prayers, which means, Gane priyasam udapasyana manta eva. Give up all of your difficult efforts at trying to cogitate and figure out what the Supreme Lord is. All of the speculation, which is what the Mayavadis love to do, throw it far away. Jnana udapasyana manta eva, and surrender unto the pure devotee, and just hear as coming out of the mouth of the pure devotee. Udapasyana jivanti san, live in this way. Jivanti san mukaditam. San means sat, devotees. Mukaditam bhavadiya vartam. Accounts of your activities, pastime, qualities, and everything. He's speaking directly to Krishna, a little baby Krishna. Bhavadiya Bhartam. Sthanis titak, very important point. Don't do anything radical. Don't take sannyas, don't go here, don't go there. Just add this to your routine. Shuddhigatam, the path of hearing. And Tanovan Manobir. And serve those vibrations with your body, mind, and words. Now there's a whole purports and commentary on what that means. But simply, you can imagine, with my body, with the senses, okay, and the instructions from the Shastra that say do this, and I'll do that. And don't do this with your senses. Van, repeat them with your words. And Manobir, think about them. Contemplate, discuss, in other words, study. These vibrations, it's all the vibrations coming from the Sabda Brahman. And then what? And this is the point where I quote this verse. Jay prayaso jita jito pasitaistri lokam. In all three worlds, this is the only way that you can conquer the unconquerable Lord. Well, how can you conquer Ajita? Krishna's Ajita. None of the demons can conquer. Because he agrees to be conquered by love. That's what he loves to be controlled by. And that's so prominent within these baby Leela with the elder gopis headed by Mother Yashoda. So he would dance. In this way, Krishna came completely under the control of the gopis. Sometimes Mother Yashoda and her gopi friends would tell Krishna, bring this article, bring that article. Sometimes they would order him to bring a wooden plank, wooden shoes, or a wooden measuring pot. You've all seen that picture of Krishna carrying his father's shoes, coming before. Prabhupada was shown that picture, and he just said, yes, he really liked that picture. Parikit painted that. So, or wooden shoes, when thus ordered by the mothers, would try to bring them. Sometimes, however, as if unable to raise these things, he would touch them and just stand there. You can imagine, Just to invite the pleasure of his relatives, he would strike his body with his arms to show that he had sufficient strength. To pure devotees throughout the world who could understand his activities, the Supreme Lord Krishna exhibited how much he can be subdued by his devotees, his servants. In this way, he increased the pleasure of the Vrajvasis by his childhood activities. And here's one very sweet pastime. I'm sure you've heard it before. The lady who's selling fruits, Now, just to let you know, the history of editing is interesting, because when we didn't have the 10th canon itself, we had the Krishna book starting in 1970. And it may have been mishearing of a he for a she, but everyone thought it was a man who was selling those fruits. That's what it was in the Krishna book, the first Krishna book. But then when I was revising the Krishna book, after this came out, I said, wait a minute, in the actual text it seems to say a woman, and I double-checked and said, yes, so that became a she. And all the paintings had to change, Anyway. Once a woman was calling, "Oh, inhabitants of Brajabhumi, if you want to purchase some fruits, come here." Upon hearing this, Krishna immediately took some grains and went to barter as if he needed some fruits. Now, Prabhupada explains in the Krishna book that he'd seen his parents do that. They often, a lot of the money, it was by barter, otherwise gold coin, but that was for like big purchases. So they would give something and then get something. He wanted to barter as if he needed some fruits. While Krishna was going to the fruit vendor very hastily, most of the grains he was holding fell to the ground. He's just a boy, you can imagine. Nonetheless, the fruit vendor filled Krishna's hands with fruits, and her fruit basket was immediately filled with jewels and gold. So in other words, she was so charmed by Krishna, the painting, here, take all the fruits, and he's holding the fruits. I'm sure he dropped some of the fruits too eventually. Now, I haven't read this part, and I think it's in the Gopal Champu also, or maybe in Andamandavan Champu, that, and she got home, and she saw the basket filled with jewels. Says, who cares, Let me go back out there with the fruits and see if I can find that boy again, so we can. She became so enthralled with that experience, Once, after the uprooting of the Amalajana trees, Rohini Devi went to call Rama and Krishna, who had both gone to the riverside and were playing with the other boys with deep attention. Because of being too attached to playing with the other boys, Krishna and Balaram did not return upon being called by Rohini. So it was time for lunch. Therefore, Rohini had sent Mother Yashoda to call them back, because Mother Yashoda was even more affectionate than her to Krishna and Balaram. Krishna and Balaram being attached to their play. So now they've got a problem, because they got the love of Mother Yashoda pulling them one way, but the boys also love him so much, and they're in that mood, the Sakyara, so they're torn. Krishna and Balaram, being attached to their play, were playing with the other boys, although it was very late, means late for lunch. Therefore, Mother Yashoda called them back for lunch. Because of her ecstatic love and affection for Krishna and Balaram, milk flowed from her breast. This is standard with Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda said, "My dear son Krishna, lotus-eyed Krishna, come here and drink the milk of my breast. My dear darling, you must be very tired because of hunger and the fatigue of playing so long. There's no need to play anymore. My dear Baladev, best of your family, please come immediately with your younger brother Krishna. You both ate in the morning, and now you should eat something more. King Nanda is now waiting to eat. Oh, my dear son Balaram, he's waiting for you. Therefore, come back to please us all. The boys playing with you and Krishna should now go to their homes." Mother Yashoda further told Krishna, "My dear son, because of playing all day, your body has become covered with dust and sand. Therefore, come back, take your bath, and cleanse yourself. Today the moon is conjoined with the auspicious star of your birth. Therefore, be pure and give cows in charity to the Brahmins. Just see how all your playmates of your own age have been cleansed and decorated with beautiful ornaments by their mothers. You should come here, and after you have taken your bath, eaten your lunch, and been decorated with ornaments, you can play again with your friends." So then Shukadev explains Purikit. "My dear king, because of intense love and affection, Mother Yashoda, Krishna's mother, considered Krishna, who was at the peak of all opulences, to be her own son. Thus she took Krishna by the hand, along with Balaram, and brought them home, where she performed her duties by fully bathing them, dressing them, and feeding them." Now in the Krishna book, Prabhupada adds from the commentary that when Krishna started to go toward his mother, the boys said, "Just see, Krishna is leaving us at the height of our play. We're not going to let him come and play with us anymore." And he says, "Oh my God, I don't want that." And so he went back to his friends. So he was torn between the two loves, So it's very, very sweet. So then it goes on to where they moved from there, and in Brihadvan, and went to Vrindavan. So what is the meaning of all this in relation to Ajamila? Well, it's just the strength of his love for his child, because he was named Narayan, was enough to give him a second chance. And so he was able to, get purified of all of his sinful reactions, become pure and go back to Godhead. So you can just imagine when there's it's not some material child that you're attached to, but it's actually Krishna. So that you're always calling his name, you're singing his song, just like we're going to sing this wonderful Damodarashtaka. There's so many verses describing this. I'll give you an example. This is from the Bhagavad Madhava. And ahaha. There's a word in Sanskrit called ahaha. You know this word? It means like what it sounds. It says, oh, how wonderful it is. How it's just checking my heart. So one devotee is speaking to or describing the scene. It says, aha, aha, kamala gande at the soundaya vinde, vinhita nayanem ton. No, she's speaking to Mukunda and describing how his mother is reacting. Aha, kamala gande at the soundaya vinde, vinhita nayanem ton mukendor Mukunda. Kucha kalasha mukhabyam ambarakno mambata bamuhantati harshad varshati chiradharam. Now you can just hear the poetry in there. So this is Bhagavad Madhava, Rupa Goswami. So it's just describing how wonderful it is. Oh, how wonderful. Kamalagan, oh you who are fragrant like a lotus flower, O Mukunda. Mother Yashoda is fixing her gaze upon O Mukunda. Mother Yashoda is fixing her gaze on your beautiful moon-like face. O Mukunda Mukendor, it's a play on word. Mukha Indor means moon-like face. And by doing that, Kucha Kalasha Mukhabim, from her her pot-like breasts, which have the little mouth of which is like her nipples, are pouring forth showers of milk and soaking her clothes. Ati harshad varshati chiraban, but the varshati means a rain of milk is coming down. So the Shastra is full of these descriptions, And one is in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. I was reading it and I came upon this and I found a mistake. So this one sticks in my mind. I had to fix it. You can just hear the euphony. This is of course also Rupa Goswami. Kronata kanika kinkani kalapam smidnamukha mudjala nasika gramuktam kadadata namanita pindamangre taniyam avekshana nanda patni. Now you can chant that 10 times, it's not going to get old, So, Kwanita Kanaka Kinkini. Kwanita it says sound, very sweet sound. So something's making a sweet sound. Kanaka Kinkini, your golden waist bells are tinkling very sweetly. Kalapam, this means the string of them. Kwanita Kanaka Kinkini Smita Mukam, you're smiling very sweetly. All you're wearing is those waist bells and a beautiful pearl, a fulgent pearl affixed to the tip of your nose. Kinkini kala smita mukam ujjala nasika gramuktam. And what do you have in your hand? Do you remember what he was carrying? He's crawling toward his mother. Butter, a fresh butter ball. Kadadita nabanitam, nabanita pindam agre, you're right in front of your mother. Nanita pindam. Taniyam aveksha, she's looking at her son, you. Taniyam aveksha nananda nanda patni. Nananda means she's ecstasized. Do you know there's a word in English called ecstasized? Yes, it means to either become full of bliss or make others full of bliss. Don't we need that word? We should integrate it into the vocabulary, ISKCON vocabulary. So she's ecstasized. That word nananda, it translates as ecstasized. She's becoming full of ecstasy. Who is it? Nanda Patni. Nananda Nanda Patni. So this is one verse. If you learn it, you can learn it. I'll help you. And that's a beautiful way of calling to mind these wonderful pastimes of Krishna. And then who knows? Maybe you'll remember it at the time of death. The point is that this natural affection of parents for their children, elders for, Krishna, he's placed himself in a situation, his natural beauty, hidden his glory, so that he's drawing that out of all the wonderful Brijbasis, especially the elder Brijbasis, which have this parental affection for him. So here we're learning, this is, of course, a very serious instruction about Ajamila and the holy name. But we should try to cultivate this constant remembrance of Krishna by chanting. It's so easy, that's the most practical for us to chant as much as possible. So that who knows when that's going to come, that final day. I mean, I don't want to preach gloom and doom, but so much of our philosophy is warning us, is telling, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshanam Dhanashanam. Or, that's a very important part of knowledge, to always be observing and be conscious of the evils of birth, old age, disease, and death. Vijay wants me to change that word, evils. But if you look it up in the dictionary, it fits pretty well. It doesn't mean that someone is evil. It can mean something that's causes a lot of damage and harm, So, this verse just sticks out in my mind, but it's all about the holy name. It's called the Kevalashtaka. Kevalashtaka. 8 verses that have been drawn from a 100-verse poem, maybe by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who praised this Kevalashtaka. The 100 verses. And there's one verse in there, he's talking about the glories of the holy name. Every verse ends with the phrase, how does it go? Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, Nasteva. Nama Eva Kevalam. The last line of every verse is Nama Eva, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam. Means there's nothing but the holy name. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. That's what it means. So here it says, Nikshrasehi Vishvaso. It says, remember that our final breath may come at any time, no matter if we're old and sick, or we're in our youthful prime. So young and old alike should chant the name incessantly. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Now, how much easier it would be to chant if every time we chanted we get some, even 1/1000th of the pleasure that Rupa Goswami describes in that famous verse you've heard before. When I chant the holy, I don't know how much nectar these 2 syllables Krishna have produced. When I chant them, they seem to dance within my mouth, and I want to have millions of mouths. And when they enter my ears, I want to have millions of ears to hear this name. Why just 1 or 2? And when they enter the courtyard of my heart, all my senses become inert, and my mind is completely absorbed in Krishna. When Lord Chaitanya heard this first, he started dancing in ecstasy with Haridas Thakur. This is in the first chapter of Anjali Lila. If you really want to dive into an ocean like it, just read that first chapter. There's all kinds of excerpts from Vidagdha Madhava, and it's very ecstatic. So that's there. That's the reality. What we're experiencing is like, it's the first taste of it, but that we just. So what are we doing wrong? Well, we're committing some offenses, not paying attention, or maintaining material desires, or whatever, criticizing devotees. But we have to remember that's the goal. That's the reality. If we can come to that point, why would we ever stop chanting? To have a source of pleasure that costs nothing, that's always available, that's ever expanding bliss, anandam buddhivardhanam. It's the reality. That's what all of our acharyas are telling us. And so isn't it worth striving for? And then you're always back to Godhead. Prabhupada would say this material world, actually matter is an illusion. Everything spiritual is all connected with Krishna. Daiviyesha gunamayi. This is And if we can see it that way, everything reminds you of Krishna, then Maya will have no strength. Maya has no strength. The ultimate surrender is to always remember Krishna and always to be eager to serve Him in any way possible. And be conscious that every breath, every action that we are doing is an offering to Krishna. That's in the 11th canto. Kaya nabacha manasindriyava. It's just an expression that karoshi yarashnasi. Whatever you do, whatever you think, whatever you offer, whatever sacrifice you perform, do as an offering to me. But to be consciously aware that your whole body, your whole mind, your whole self is performing various services for Krishna, headed by always remembering Him and chanting and hearing His holy names. So that eventually is what all of this leads to. The importance of the holy name. What is the moral of the story here? We're going to read a few chapters. Yamaraj sums it up. Etabad jamasapalyam. Etabad evalokesman pungsang dharma paraksmaha bhakti yogo bhagavati tam nama grahanaribi. The supreme dharma for all living entities is bhakti yoga to Lord Govinda, beginning with the chanting of his holy name. That could be like a mission statement for this whole movement. Lord Chaitanya, he came to preach that. So those are a few things that were inspired by this this verse and this whole pastime of Ajamila. How fortunate he is, and how fortunate we are to be able to chant the holy name every day, to consciously be trying in our own way as best we can to advance in devotional service, to come to that point of awakening real attraction for the holy name, attraction for Krishna, and attraction for his devotees, wonderful devotees. So I'll leave it there. It's kind of late. If there are any questions or comments, we can entertain them.
I think you probably addressed this and I just missed it, but at the beginning of your class you mentioned, because this verse and purport are talking about how merciful Krishna is in this way, how he was just thinking of his son, he was attached to his son, and then he accidentally practically was chanting Krishna's name because he was intentionally chanting his son's name, accidentally Krishna's. And so by that he became liberated. And then you brought up the example that Govardhan mentioned in his class on Saturday about the person who just fell into tilak and then became liberated. And
I don't even want to think about the sins he committed. I mean, that's horrific.
So how to understand this? It seems inconsistent because we aren't liberated because we don't really want to serve Krishna. We aren't like pure devotees, and you can't. And to be a pure devotee, you have to do it consciously. You can't like accidentally become a pure devotee. Exactly. So that was the kind of the question. And so, concisely, how did you? Because you brought that up at the beginning, and I think maybe I missed where you went with that.
That pastime I'd never heard before about falling in the chandan.
Yeah, because I think you even said something like, the question is, or something like, how is this fair? How is this?
Yes,
something like that.
Yes.
So concisely, how do you explain that to someone?
Just as Ajamila didn't go back to Vaikuntha, off that bed, so this fellow was boiling in oil, right? But he didn't feel it, right? That's the thing. But he still had to go through that torment. He didn't, he wasn't in Vaikuntha at that point. Assumedly, then he did some more sadhana and actually went back to Godhead. But the way that I was trying to understand it is that Krishna wants to try to make all arrangements for somehow or other attracting us and reawakening us so we can go back to Godhead. And so this whole thing, and the way Lord Chaitanya describes, you've invested your holy name with all of the potencies. Now, as we know, the holy name is always like that, but especially in this age, Kali, because we're so fallen, it's practically our only way, our only hope is really to get chanting the holy name under the guidance of a pure devotee who's can guide us. So it's like Krishna has all of these, in other words, if there's a spark, if there's some kind of a connection that Krishna wants to try to arrange for that to be able to be fanned so that we can become actually pure and come back to Godhead. Just like the Prabhupada's whole pastime, the whole saga of Prabhupada coming. I like to think about all the way, all the things happen in India to kind of, and Prabhupada explained it like this, make it impossible for him to really do anything there, so that he was left with, of course, the great heroic thing that he did, there's no question, to say, well, it's fag into my life, I'm going to try to go for it now, And before that, spending all that time writing the book, which is a preparation. So, Krishna is so intelligent that he gives us so many chances to contact him, or reaches out, like the devotees are reaching out and bothering people on the street, or somehow skillfully attracting them. And a few are so fortunate every day we're hearing these wonderful scores, they're getting books, So what is that? I mean, here's someone who committed who knows how many sins, how many, steeped in ignorance, and yet there's a spark because of the representative and because of something they read or heard somewhere, and so that the interest can take place and they can get a book, and if they read it, or even read one page, they'll be associated with a pure devotee. So it's like the same. It's almost like the same thing. They're not delivered yet. There's still a lot of work to do, but the attachment, the interest, is awakened. The preliminary interest to give them a chance to pursue it. And this whole movement is here so that if they become curious, oh, it says here, this is like in India. What's in India? No, wait a minute, look, it says it's right here in South Beach, like the Praneshwari was saying, right? It says, now they opened a center just near my home. But now on Fridays, I got to come to, But the point is that there are so many ways, strategies that Krishna has to make it possible for those few who are a little bit interested that their flame can be. And this is one of the things. The holy name itself, the Sankirtan, we're going out on the street, people are coming by, they're hearing the name, they're becoming purified. Yeah, but then they go through some more sin, But some percentage of them, if they meet a devotee, and he says, Hare Krishna, says, oh yeah, I used to hear that when I was a kid. I mean, I remember that, when I'd be on the street. Oh, I remember, I knew the devotees back in New York. I actually saw your spiritual master. I don't know if that's true or not. But, some of them did. And so they're reminded, and maybe they see remember a book that they read or a passage that they read, and so it's a strategy. It's the best that can be done, be hoped, in this Kali Yuga. And so I see that as all of that is a means that Krishna has arranged, and seemingly, this is really extreme. I mean, he killed so many pregnant women and everything, But somehow, because of his contact there, he was given the chance. Now, if he was saved at that point and discontinued his sinful activity, then all right, you got to go to hell for a while. That's what you need to do. So it's hard to fathom. What I'm getting at is hard to fathom. And if you look at our own lives, I mean, in my own life, there's a million different ways that I wouldn't have become a devotee. But because maybe I had something in the previous life, I had so many false starts and dead ends in my life that didn't work. Until finally I said, because I was chanting by that time, and the chanting was giving me solace, and I was reading the books and get the philosophy. So my best bet is just to join at this point. It was kind of like, and it was like the best choice I ever made. So it's just, you can't see. So when you look back and you see, all the different things that could have happened differently, but Krishna protected me and brought me in.
I just have one other small one, then thank you for that. The other question I had quickly was, recently I heard one of your godbrothers was explaining the topic of Ajamila, the whole pastime. And I think in response to a question, maybe about it not being fair, like he was calling his son, I think that might have been the context, but his explanation was that when he chanted Narayana at the time of death, it wasn't chanting that saved him, but it was that because of his background, when he chanted the name of his son, he suddenly thought of Lord Narayana that time, and so he was thinking of Lord Narayana at the time of death. Now
that may be from a commentary. I think it may be from Vishnu.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, I can look that up.
Okay, that was my question, because I don't remember getting that takeaway from Prabhupada's explanation of Bhagavatam, but maybe some Acharya has that takeaway. Oh, okay.
But I've heard that, and sometimes in the talks, maybe in a lecture somewhere, I think Mahaprabhu may have said it. But that's one of he thought of because he did have the background as a child, so at the time of death, your whole life comes before you, so that's another thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think in Govardhan, or 2 days ago, I think the verse said that also, that because of his previous activity, but specifically that aspect that it wasn't the name so much as the remembrance is kind of what seems to be significantly like a very different take.
Yeah, well, it's both.
But
it's
okay,
both,
yeah.
for sure. The holy name is so potent. Go ahead.
So, Hare Krishna?
Yeah, just be patient. We'll a few minutes, okay?
Okay.
So, Prabhuji, this Ajnana Srikriti might be involved, as you said. It could be because of his past life, and then Krishna thought he needs more help. He has done something good, so he needs little bit of mercy now, and he gets it. Or it could be of multiple reasons, or it could be just that Krishna thought that he needs some mercy. That was Krishna's desire. He wants this person to make quick progress. So
but he wants us all to make quick progress. The mercy is like for everyone. and some are more qualified. It's like they've opened up a channel by actually doing something, even unknowingly, for the benefit of the devotees, for the the benefit of the deities, whatever it is. Like even Prahlad. Prahlad in the previous birth. The story where he was had some tryst with a prostitute or something in previous birth, and they went to the forest and they cleaned off an area and they had to do their thing, and it happened to be an old temple of Nrsingadev or something that was buried, and they were cleaning off, and so they got credit. He got credit for that, and that helped it. Happens like that. That's really agyata sukriti, So yeah, it's a complicated thing. It's hard to unwind, But the main thing is that Krishna wants us back, and we have some exposed to it. Really, we should try to do as much as possible in this lifetime to become purified, so that you can come back and go back to Godhead, or at least come back in a planet. I mean, I'm thinking it's got to be another planet. I don't see this planet being very conducive, although it says 10,000 years. So that's, Krishna can do anything, so it just seems so impossible. Govardhan, okay, and then maybe Vijay. Do you have something?
Sorry, I forgot to, put the background story of the what is it called? Tilak.
Yeah.
There was a person that we met in Lohoya Cove. His name is Jose, and he came last Sunday, and he sent me a picture of him, a tilak. It wasn't nice, but he put tilak on, and then he said, why do we have this? So I wanted to give him like a nice, explanation. So I looked up, so that's why.
That's why you found the story.
So, and then another thing too is that yesterday at Balboa Park, I was distributing books, and this Mataji, she said, my favorite color is orange. First she said, Hare Krishna. I said, how do you know us? And she said, I remember you guys, because you were saying, sometimes people would remember us when they were younger.
Yeah.
And she said, my favorite color is orange. And I said, why? And she said, because of you guys. I love you guys like that. So
I hope you're good at keeping notes here, because you got to write a book someday. Yeah, this is good. Go ahead, Prabhu.
I just had a question about this Agati Sukriti, and how does it apply to prasadam? Like if my consciousness is in a material consciousness, and if I take some prasadam, but I'm not honoring it properly, how does that affect me in a sense?
You're talking about a devotee taking prasadam? Or just like distributing prasadam and people don't even know much about it, they just...
I guess on both aspects. More a devotee take prasadam, and they know of it.
The thing is, whatever we're doing in Krishna consciousness, assuming we're showing up at least, there's always a question of the quality. When you're fully aware and conscious of what you're doing and why you're doing it, like taking prasadam consciously, as this has been touched by the lips of Krishna. I mean, you can go into ecstasy, just take the prasadam, but that's the fact. It's blessed food. It's purifying. You're thankful that Krishna. There's a whole lot of emotions that go in it rather than just eating, but it's still purifying anyway. Prabhupada knew that, of course, and that's why he was very eager to distribute prasadam when he first started, and the fact that he could do a Sunday feast and he was trained devotees to cook. It has a tremendous purifying effect, and one of the things about it is that it's one of the main ways in which people show affection for others. Cook for them. That's one of the 6 exchanges, right? So someone who accepts prasadam from a devotee or in a Sunday feast, they're even on a mundane level, they're feeling, this person liked me, they give me free food, let me come back here. That's the whole point. It keeps them coming back to the association so that they'll hear, and get that very essential part of prasadam. So the prasadam is Krishna's way of immediately reaching out to us and giving us one of the 6 exchanges. I love you. Take the halva. He says, I love halva. I was totally addicted to halva for like 7 or 8 years. You should have seen me. I was Moga too? He burns it off. One kirtan is... I used to dance like anything. You don't see it now, but I used to go out in 3 hours a day and dance it off. But it's a major thing. You know, you got this wonderful prasadam, this food, you know, and that's so important, you know, and then the chanting and the association and everything, even without knowing much of the philosophy.
I had one more. Now, what's worse? Now, is it wasting prasadam, or me like, okay, you know, I'm gonna do it for now. I'm gonna take the leftovers of, so it doesn't go to waste. I'm gonna take one for the team. I'm gonna finish this halava.
That's good.
But which one's wasting it or not taking it?
Or not taking it.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't take it, maybe someone else can take it. I mean, if you don't throw it out, I mean, you know, if it's still good, we should try to. We used to have a lady here. I don't think anyone that's here now knows. You remember Bhadra? Yeah, Mahananda is an old time. So she was an amazing lady. She joined here and never left. She joined in the 70s, I think. The Shaded Prabhupada disciple and everything. And she was a senior at that time. I mean, she was like maybe 50 when she joined. She passed away at 96. I think it was 96 or 98. 99, something like that. So part of her service that she took on, you know, was to take all the leftover Mahaprasadam. You know, we used to have many devotees here, but they cooked more and there would be left over. So she would take it and go, you know, with one of those shopping carts that people used to have, and, you know, old people used to have. I don't know if they still have. Now you order online. And she would go down to the beach. And she would find some people or the birds, you know, she would give to the birds. And she had a real following amongst the seagulls, you wouldn't believe, you know. And she would just appear down there, even without the prasadam, and then the birds would gather, you know. And she had a special relationship with the cows. There's no cows here, but she was. You haven't been. Anyone who's been to this farm in Mississippi, New Taliban, they have a program, and this is why it's a prosperous farm, of sponsor a cow. You know, and they had a lot of devotees and people. So she was doing that, she was on, well, you know, Social Security. She gets some money, and she was sponsoring the cow. So in the last phase of her life, you know, she wanted to go visit some of the centers. So Ladli, bless her heart, she took charge of her, and she was taking care of her for the last 10 years at least, you know. So she took her on a tour of some of the farms. She went to this farm, I think it was, and Gita Nagari, of course. So when she went to the farm there, I visited there once. This New Taliban, you know, had plenty of land, a lot of cows. So she went out into the field a little bit, and you know, and the cows all came around her, and they were just looking at her. You know, I don't know, maybe someone came and sniffed her, you know, maybe licked her, and that no one had ever seen anything like that. Somehow they knew that this lady had been sponsoring them, or they just felt the love, you know, whatever it was, you know, the affection, you know. So I completely forgot how I got off on that. What was it? Oh, the prasadam, yeah. So that was one of it, yeah. So we should respect it, you know. It's in the cooking, the serving, the honoring, and the distribution. All of it, if we remember you know, this is Krishna's blessing, and he's tasted it, it'll improve our consciousness, and we'll become attached. We're already attached to prasadam, but we'll be attached to distributing prasadam, cooking prasadam, doing all the things that you're doing. All right, Vijay, I don't want to leave you hanging there.
Yes, Dravida Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam.
We have two contributions. The first devotee to go is Maitreya Prabhu.
Okay, Maitreya Prabhu. Good to hear from you.
Hare Krishna, thank you. When I hear you talk about the childhood pastimes of Krishna, it really would be great to just stop time and just to be able to continue for a long time hearing those amazing pastimes. They're so attractive.
Yeah.
And thank you for mentioning Mother Brajapati also. I would sit with her sometimes, and she wasn't a deep philosopher, but you know, the association of a sadhu has a powerful effect on the consciousness. Their qualities are attractive, and it makes us want to become like them. It gives us a reason for pursuing and wanting to become more Krishna conscious.
Yes.
So the one question I had is, in the Bhagavad Gita, there's the verse to encourage Arjuna, Neha vikramanasasti pratyabhayo navidyate swalpam abhyasya dharmasya prayate makromaya. Even a little advancement on this path is never lost. and protect one from the greatest fear. And then we hear pastimes like the devotee, the rascal that fell in the Chandan, or this rascal Ajamila who was lucky enough to chant the name of Narayana and become purified. And so, as you were saying, Krishna wants us back, and he's unlimitedly powerful, and despite what the material energy is capable of, he's capable of, of counteracting anything. And yet, we have seen devotees fall down, and it looks like they fall all the way down, And in thinking about that, it occurred to me, it's like we're amassing a pile of fuel, and by following the regular principles, you're trying to keep it dry. But eventually, you have to apply the spark, or it's never going to catch fire.
Yeah.
And offending a devotee is like pouring water all over that fire, or even worse. And the fuel is there, so we haven't lost anything in that sense. We still got the pile of fuel, but now we have to wait for it to dry out. Who knows how long that can take? It may take decades if the offense is bad enough.
Yeah.
So by hearing you talk in this way and having an attraction for it, makes me realize that's hard won. It's something we should really protect so carefully, because if we don't and we make a mistake, it's true, we still have we know something about how to make advance, but that won't be lost. But it can set us back a lifetime, more than one lifetime. So how to keep in mind both the attractive qualities of Krishna, at the same time guard against doing something that could ruin our prospects in this lifetime and set us back.
Yeah. So many of these questions, and oftentimes when I used to travel, I don't know if I'm going to travel, how much I'm going to travel again, but I get the questions because you go to Columbus or other places, a lot of householder devotees, and they're saying, well, how is it possible, I go to the office and there's so many distractions, how can I think? And I don't, all I can, my usual answer is prayer. You have to be sincerely prayerful. We're supposed to pray through the holy name. And for service, to Radha and Krishna. But there's so many wonderful prayers, and I'll end with this one because, sometimes it's all on the sound vibration. It's then we deviate and that before you know it, you're hearing jalpa or this or that or talking and thinking about it. So there's a beautiful verse. This comes at the end of a series of verses about the childhood pastimes of Krishna in the Leela Chanda by Rupa Goswami, which is a summary of his Vrindavan Leela. So he's just given all these pastimes we just read about, and some of them were killing Trinavarta and the Shakatasura and pulling the calf tail and all this stuff. So this is at the end, and he says, he's a calf word, he's not a coward yet. He says, Api, you know this one, Api spara mode pratibhata sudhako timadadeshana puranagra manda bahatita valida adasajade mano vatsuk patam vishaya vishagate vishati me Kripa yaschaturnam dhamayatamamam tarnakapate. Tarnakapate, O Lord of the calves. Said, my dear Lord, although throughout the Puranas headed by Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a wonderful river of nectar describing your pastimes, very fragrant, pratibhata sudha koti madure, millions of times more sweet than nectar. Still, the foolish calf of my mind has wandered away from that wonderful nectar stream and has gone into a ditch to drink the poisonous swill of sense gratification. Please take your stick of mercy and bring that calf of my mind back to this wonderful nectar of your O Radha Krishna, children of the best of cowherd men, this single boon I beg from you again and yet again. In all the countless births my endless sins will make me meet, that all my love flow toward your luscious, lustrous lotus feet. So it helps to pray. You can even pray to the holy name. You can pray to the holy name. There's Namashtika. There's a devotee named Madhuri Pura. He came here. He's the son of a devotee, Prahlada Priya. Very wonderful kirtan leader, wonderful devotee. He visited once. I know him from Mayapur. And that's part of a verse. Nada, the last verse of the Namashtika. Nada dabino jivana sador miniryasa madhuri pura tvam Krishna nama kamam spudame rasane vasena sada. I remember chanting this verse on the japa retreats. We used to go on for a week and just think about japa, hear wonderful talks about japa from Satyananda Maharaj and others, Giriraj Swami. And so what he says, O holy name, you're the inspiration for the Veena of Narada. And you are an ocean, or you have a sweet stream of intense nectar. Please always appear on my tongue with great relish. Let my tongue have more and more taste for you. In other words, please give me some taste, for you. So you can pray the holy name. Holy name is Krishna. So the prayer is the key. Lead a prayerful life. We're supposed to be always chanting Hare Krishna. That's constant prayer. Please engage me in your service. That's the best I can do with that one, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. And now, Vijay Krishna.
Yes, Dravida Prabhu, thank you very much. You're very kind. Dandavat pranams. Prabhu, the quote from the purport to the text you chose for today goes as follows. Quote, his chanting was being counted and recorded, end quote. Based on this quote, my question is it accurate to say that everything that I, Vijaya Krishna, thus have been doing in favor of Lord Chaitanya's movement, like the questions I have been presenting to the Sangha, is being counted and recorded? And if your answer is yes, what will be the end result of such counting and recording? Is it that Krishna will appear in front of my eyes for me to see him? Maybe he will make me a millionaire. Who knows? Please?
I hope not. That'll be a real deviation. I have no idea. It's definitely being counted and recorded. That's what that Nehabi Krimanashasti is all about, that verse. There's no loss, there's no diminution. That means you do any sincere service, just like you're asking these questions, that goes into your account. Now, if you're still not pure, then you have to come back. But you'll start from that point. You'll be, you'll have that money. Your questions will be even more poignant, and you'll be more eager to hear Bhagavatam. So yes, it's all being counted. Anything we do for Krishna, of course, how much is counted depends on our sincerity, whether the purity of doing it. But it is being counted, and it does protect us from and I'll just end with this little editorial note. The most dangerous type of fear. Whenever Prabhupada quoted that verse, that he did quite often in his lectures and everything, it was always said, yes, even a little service can protect you from the greatest danger. So you look up the word bhaya in Sanskrit and you'll find it means both fear and danger. And so really what it is, mahato bhayat, is the most fearful danger. Most fearful danger, which is losing the human form of life. So so just by a little advancement, we won't lose the human form of life. But we want to use it. We want to lose it. We want to go back to Godhead in our spiritual body. But if we have to come back, it'll be as a human being, and we'll continue chanting. So everything is counted. Keep it up. Just
yes, Dravida Prabhu, has to be expected again. Breathtaking answer to my question. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Hare Bol.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah. Boy, you guys are leaving. When are you going?